my goodness, the day you've been waiting for is right around the corner. It's time to start packing your student-teacher bag with everything you might need to have a successful student teaching journey. If I'm being honest, a lot of these items that are on this list today are items that I've brought to every single school year that I've been teaching. So although we're chatting about student teachers today, you might hear some new ideas even if you've been teaching for a while. If you haven't had a chance to meet my husband yet, let me just say, he's a really analytical guy. It might be the engineer in him, but he's always saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I absolutely do not want you to fail. So on today's episode, we're going to be sharing everything you might want to bring to ensure that your student teaching experience is nothing but the best. Before we get into today's episode, though, I want to take a quick minute and tell you something. If I haven't told you recently, thank you for your unending support and for showing up and listening to our Student Teacher podcast series. It's no surprise that this podcast is new, but you listeners are continuing to blow me away every single day. I'm not sure if you're a stats person or not, but last week when I was logging in to post our episode for February 3rd, I glanced at our monthly podcast stats and I literally almost fell out of my chair. In 2020, our highest monthly listens just so happened to be in December with 154 episode downloads. Fast forward just 1 month to January of 2021, and you guys really showed up. Just last month, there were over 400 episode downloads, 453 to be exact. You guys, seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you don't already know, I'm a one-man show. I write these episodes, I record them, I edit them, and I upload them. Sometimes my husband helps a little bit with the uploading, but regardless, I'm pretty much a one-man show. Even though an episode might only be 20 minutes long, it takes around 5 hours each week to create these episodes for you. Although it would be amazing to have a team of people doing the behind-the-scenes work, that costs money. And the purpose of this podcast isn't to make money, because I promise you, I'm not. The purpose of this podcast is to share free knowledge with all of you listeners and to help you feel confident and supported as you blossom into the teacher that you were born to be. So again, when you hear me say thank you for being here, I seriously do mean it. Being able to share my passion with all of you is worth more than I could ever explain. I'm just blown away by the 453 episode downloads for January, and I can't wait to check the stats and see who's all showing up in February.
Welcome to the North Dakota Teaching Podcast. Whether you're a first-year teacher, veteran teacher, or just a mom trying to gain some new insights, you are right where you are meant to be. Kayla Durkin, founder of the Blossoming Teacher course, is passionate about helping new teachers blossom into the teacher they were born to be. Kayla wants to help inspire teachers to be their best self, whether that means sharing about personal or professional development, self-care, or the latest and most effective teaching strategies. Through this podcast, you will hear from real teachers sharing their stories about teaching, all with one main goal in mind: to be able to make an impact and help other teachers blossom. And with that, here is your host, Kayla Durkin.
Hey, after all of that, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, Kayla, we get it. You love us. Now let's get on with the show. So let's just do that. Today we're chatting about what you should bring on your first day of student teaching. And please know, some of these things might seem a bit extra, but I promise there's a time and place for everything that we are chatting about today. I know today we'll be talking about a few items that you probably expected, but we're also going to be talking about some things that you probably never thought about before. So let's start with the basics. You're going to want a teacher bag. I'm sure you've already been searching out the cutest rectangular shaped bags out there, and I don't want to break your heart when I say this, because there's definitely a time and a place for those cute teacher bags, but for student teaching, a cute yet practical backpack will be sufficient. I 100% agree that the rectangular bags are great for days when bringing treats or supplies for school projects, but for the everyday bag, I'm a firm believer in using a backpack. I know there are so many cute options out there, but I highly recommend finding a heavy-duty, oversized backpack. While you're student teaching, you're more than likely going to be taking home the teacher guides, also known as your teacher basils, small group items, papers to grade, seriously so many things. and you'll want a bag that's up for the challenge. There will also be a few other supplies we'll be talking about today that you might want to keep in your backpack, so finding a roomy one with lots of pockets is going to be helpful too. The main reason why I'm a firm believer in using a backpack is because it leaves your hands open and free when you're fiddling with your keys to get into the building, when you're carrying that $5 coffee you just bought, to answer your phone if someone starts calling. I think you get the point. When you're trying to carry a side bag or even an over the shoulder bag, the weight in itself can make carrying the bag a challenge, whereas with a backpack, the weight doesn't seem as heavy when it's over both of our shoulders and evenly distributed. Those side bags can also be pretty annoying if you have to keep setting the bag down each time you go through a set of doors or when you're making your way to the classroom. The scenario I'm trying to paint for you right now might not make total sense yet, but it will. And again, I definitely think there's a time and a place for those cute rectangular teacher bags, but I just don't really think they're necessary when you're student teaching. So let's talk about a few things that you're going to want to keep in your student teacher bag, even if you choose the rectangular one. We'll want the cute little items that only teachers ever seem to be carrying around, such as a few sticky notes, pens, pencils, some paper clips and binder clips, maybe a few rubber bands, and a highlighter or a Sharpie or two. And I suggest keeping these little items in a pencil pouch so that every time you need them, you can just grab out your pencil pouch and they're right where you need them to be. I also suggest keeping a small pouch in your bag with a few items such as chapstick, extra bobby pins, a few ponytails, and then even a few medicines. If you go to the Dollar Tree, you can buy these little single serving name brand medicines, and I suggest picking up a few such as some Tylenol and ibuprofen. You never know, you might have a surprise headache or some body aches because you're honestly going to be exhausted. I also suggest some Dayquil, maybe some vitamin C, because you're going to be around so many new germs and chances are you might catch a cold. And we all know getting a cold can be pretty miserable, so having some Dayquil on hand is going to be helpful. Within this pouch, you'll also want to keep a few feminine products for emergencies and maybe even some Motrin or something that helps relieve the onset of those monthly cramps. Again, we don't want this medicine bag to take up too much room, so consider having just a few of each type of pill. Maybe 3 or 4 max, that way you don't have to replenish it each time you use it, but if you're desperate, at least you have something with you. Okay, this example might be one that seems a little extra, but when I was student teaching, I kept a few travel size items of deodorant, a toothbrush and toothpaste, perfume, a tiny lotion, mascara, concealer, and even a little face powder. I think we can all agree that we've had those days where we're just exhausted and we look in the mirror at the end of the day and we're like, oh my gosh, what happened to me? My face is melting off. Most days, you'll probably just be heading home or heading to the gym, and so you'll be fine. But if you end up having a parent meeting after school or you decide to go for apps after school, it's always nice to be able to freshen up a little bit. Plus, if you're anything like me, when a surprise pimple comes out of nowhere, I like to be able to use a little powder just to tone it down. The bag really won't take up too much space, especially if you're using sample size items. I mean, they're not going to get you very far, but again, they'll be helpful if you're in a bind. Up next on our list is an item for my soul sisters who are known to get a little hangry every now and again. So let's make a little emergency snack kit. This doesn't have to be anything extravagant either, but a little bag with some gum, mints, and a few snacks such as some single serving crackers or protein bars will really help you if you have to run out the door without breakfast, or even if you remember that you have to stay late and you forgot to pack an after school snack, or even supper depending on how long you're staying. Sometimes being hungry can almost be debilitating, so an emergency snack really can be a lifesaver. Okay, for our smaller items that we want to put in our bag, the last thing I'm going to suggest is some emergency money. I didn't keep much in my bag, maybe $20 at most, but I tried to keep smaller bills and even some change. Some examples of when you might need this money include a popcorn or hat day, when a student is selling something for their scouts troop or a fundraiser, if you forget to pack a lunch and you need to buy something, if someone suggests ordering in lunch, grabbing a water from the pop machine, really any situation where having some change on hand might be helpful, especially if you're someone who doesn't typically carry cash. This can also come in handy if you forget your purse or wallet or need to run and get gas after school or something. As a student teacher, and even as a classroom teacher, I didn't typically bring my purse into school. There just wasn't really a safe space to keep personal items, and although I never had anything wander off, I just didn't feel comfortable leaving my purse just sitting there on my desk for all eyes to see. But keeping a small amount of cash in my bag was always sufficient. So let's just recap here. So far, we know that we need a teacher bag, and within our teacher bag, we're going to want some little teacher supplies, a medicine kit, a few snacks, and some emergency money. What I really like about backpacks is that everything has its own spot, whereas in some of those bigger bags, everything's just kind of floating around. With backpacks, we can also hide some of the items we really don't just want floating around for all eyes to see, such as our feminine products, that emergency money, just little things that people don't need to know you have on you at all times. If you're using a backpack for all of the above items that I just mentioned, they should fit within one or two of the smaller pockets of your backpack, which leaves those big pockets open for the things that you probably already had on your list that you know you don't want to forget. If you haven't started making a list yet though, here are a few more items you absolutely want to make sure you have: your laptop and iPad and the charger. Your device won't serve you if it's not charged. A spare phone charger would also be great if you could just keep one in your bag just in case your phone didn't charge the night before. Headphones, if you're teaching virtually, would be really helpful. Of course, your student teaching binder. And if you're new here and you're wondering what to put in your binder, check out the previous episode or head to my blog. I have a blog post about what you should include inside your student teaching binder, as well as binder templates that you can grab from my Teachers Pay Teachers store. You're definitely going to want hand sanitizer, even if it's not COVID or cold and flu season. Just having a travel size hand sanitizer is always super helpful. And of course, you're going to want to bring your lunch. If you're not sure what options you'll have for warming up a lunch, or even if you'll have a refrigerator to put your lunch in, I suggest packing food items such as a sandwich and fruit, or some yogurt and cheese and crackers, or really anything that doesn't require you to warm it up, but can also just get you by when you're using an ice pack. If you like a warm beverage in the morning, you could also bring a thermostat with your coffee or tea, and again, a water bottle is always helpful too. So by this point, your backpack should be pretty loaded up and ready to go, but there are a few more things that I want to share with you that maybe you haven't thought about. I'm going to make the assumption that most of us will be driving to our placement, so here are a few items I suggest keeping in your car just in case you end up needing them. More times than not, you absolutely won't need these items, but the day that you do need them, you'll definitely wish you would have had them. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go through your closet and find an old outfit that you'll honestly probably never wear, but you'd wear it if you had to. I would suggest something that's pretty neutral in colors and would probably go with whatever undergarments and shoe you're wearing. Are you wondering where I'm going with this yet? As much as we would like to pretend that everything is always going to be perfect, there might be a day when you spill your coffee all over yourself, when a student gets sick and accidentally gets it on you, or an art or science project gets a little bit too messy. Sometimes unexpected things happen, and it is really helpful if you have an extra change of clothes that you're able to keep with you just in case of an emergency. It's definitely not required to have a change of clothes with you, but you just never know when they might come in clutch. A few other things I would suggest keeping in your vehicle would be a comfortable pair of shoes in case you're doing an outdoor activity or you decide to join gym class with your students for the day, a sweater or a cardigan that you can toss on if it's chilly out, some extra socks if your feet get wet at recess. I understand that having these items in your car isn't as convenient as if they were in the classroom with you every day, and if your school provides you with a locker or an area to keep belongings, you might consider keeping them there, but if not, having them in your vehicle will be really helpful, especially if you live really far from your school and there would be no opportunity for you to drive home in case something did come up. As we end today, I just want to remind you that I know not all of these items are 100% necessary, but if you really do want to be prepared for any typical day as a teacher, having these items close by will alleviate some stress. If you're up for the challenge, I would love to have you take a picture of what's in your teacher bag and post it inside of our First Year Teacher Support Facebook page. I know that there are so many items that I didn't mention today that others would benefit from hearing. If you're not in our Facebook page yet, all you have to do is head to ndteaching.com/Facebook and you'll be able to join from there. Again, that's ndteaching.com/Facebook. Seriously though, I'm excited to see the pictures that you post. I want to know what you keep inside of your teacher bag, even if it is a rectangular bag and not a backpack. I was actually talking to one of my blossoming teacher students just last week, and she was saying how thankful she was that she had her emergency kit packed because it's already came in handy so many times during her first year of teaching. Again, I don't know that every single one of of you is going to need a change of clothes or an extra pair of socks, but I can guarantee that there might be a day you have a headache, or a day that a cold is coming on, or a day that you really do just need a couple extra dollars in cash. Having just a few extra things with you really will be helpful, especially since they don't take up too much space. You just truly never know when something might come up. So as always, if you have any questions or you just need someone to talk to, if you're getting ready for your interviews and you have a question, or you just need to bounce some ideas off of someone, I am always just a message away. I really would love to chat, so head to Instagram, look up North Dakota Teaching, which is where you can find me, and send me a DM. I really can't wait to follow alongside your journey and watch you blossom into the teacher that you were born to be. Best of luck during your upcoming experience. I know you're going to be amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the North Dakota Teaching Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Be sure to tune in to the next episode for more teaching tips to make an impact. Until next time.